Welcome to the lecture, guys. So in this lecture we'll be taking another 10 question of HC Verma, chapter number electric current in conductor. Okay, your chapter number 32, and from this lecture onward I'll be shifting my language from the native Hindi to the English on audience demand.
Don't forget to hit the like button, and if you like what we do, please subscribe.
So first question says that you are having a copper wire. Okay, we are having a copper wire of resistance 1 kilo ohm and a radius of 0.1 millimeter. Now you have to calculate number of electron transferred per second. Transfer per second. Okay, you are given this wire is connected with a 20-volt supply over here. Now to save your time, what I am doing is I am solving everything prior to deliver your lecture, and then I'll be showing you every answer over here, okay, on the screen itself. Now first, to calculate the charge, number of electron passing through your wire, what do you have to calculate? You have to calculate for the current itself. Okay, you have to calculate the current itself. Why? Because if I figure out what my current is, I can figure out the total charge contribution. Okay, and from the quantization concept itself, I can say that the total charge is nothing but it is a integral multiple of charge of the electron, and this integer generally denotes the number of electron. Okay, now what I'm doing over here is I'm using Ohm's law, V equal to IR. I'm calculating for my I. Okay, so here I have calculated my I, and I know that I is nothing but it is Q by T, the charge upon my time. Okay, now from the quantization concept, I can replace this Q by Ne over here. So I have replaced my Q by Ne, leading to form Ne upon T. Okay, now what I can do is I can shift this E in reciprocal of this term 20 into 10 to the power 3 over here. Okay, now you'll be getting N upon T over here. So you were being asked about the number of electron per second. So this is your number of electron, this is time. So number of electron per unit time you're getting. In the second part itself, it is asking you for the current density. Now as you know that current density is nothing but current divided by the area. And the SI unit is nothing but ampere per meter square. It is ampere per meter square. So you are familiar with your current, you have find it out your current over here in this calculation itself, which is 20 by 10 to the power 3, now you have to divide your current by area. So area is pi into the radius square, and you have to mind that the radius is given into millimeter, so you have to convert it into meter. Okay, that's why you can satisfy your unit as well. So my answer is coming to be 6.37 into 10 to the power 5 in this case of your current density. So my next question says calculate the electric field inside the copper wire of cross section area 2 millimeter square carrying a current 1 ampere and resistivity of the copper is given to you. Now for finding the electric field inside your wire, you have to relate this electric field to one of the parameter of your current electricity concept over here. Now you know that Ohm's law infer V equal to IR, and from your electrostatic you know that V equal to E into D, where D is the length of the wire in this case. Okay, now because they haven't given you the value of R, you'll be using the old school method of finding the value of R by the resistivity itself, because they have given you the resistivity, which is 1.7 into 10 to the power minus 8 in this case, 1.7 into 10 to the power minus 8 in this case. Okay, so we'll be switching on to the old school formula of rho L by A, where L is the length of the wire, A is the area of the cross section. They have given you the area of the cross section. Okay, now by replacing the appropriate values, you will be getting rid of the L over here, leaving you with this kind of formula rho I by A, and you are equipped with every value over here. You are having the value of rho I and A, so just put all the value of rho I and A in this formula and get your value of electric field. Quickly moving toward the next question. So in the next question, it is saying that a wire is having a length of 2 meter and resistance of 5 ohm. find the electric field existing inside the wire. Now they have given you the resistance also, the I also, and you have given with the length also. So from the previous formula itself you can form this kind of formula, V equal to IR, where V is replaced by E into D, and D is nothing but the length of the wire, which is 2 meter in this case. So E will be IR by D or IR by L. Now write in the comment section what magnitude of E you are getting in your case. Okay, I'll reply you. Quickly moving toward the next question is the resistance of an iron wire and copper wire at 20 degrees Celsius are 3.9 and 4.1. Okay, so he have given you resistance of iron and copper wire at 20 degrees Celsius. Now he is asking you that at what temperature both of these resistance will be equal, where he have given you every bit of information like the thermal coefficient of resistivity you will be needing for the copper and the iron wire. Now the concept I'm using is this one, the change in temperature leading us to the change in the resistance of the wire. Okay, so if there is a change in temperature, you'll be having a change in resistance of the wire. So so now the question is asking you at what temperature the resultant resistance of iron at that particular temperature is equivalent to the net resistance of the copper at that particular temperature. Okay, so there is a particular temperature T where both of them are having same resistances. Okay, so that's my concept which I am using, and this is the condition he have given me. So by using this concept I can replace R2 by R1 1 plus alpha delta T equal to R1 of copper 1 plus alpha delta T for both of the cases over here. Now as you can see, I have to replace R1 by R1 of iron at 20 degrees Celsius. Then I have to replace R1 of copper at 20 degrees Celsius by the appropriate value. Okay, and if I have to talk about delta T is nothing but from the temperature you are starting. In this case it is 20 degree, and to the higher temperature you are stopping, which is T in this case. So delta T becomes T minus 20 degree here. Okay, now you'll be wondering that why I haven't converted this 20 degree in Kelvin here only, whereas my alpha is given in the form of Kelvin inverse. Okay, so that is take care by this negative sign over here. If I am converting my 20 degree to Kelvin over here, I will be converting my T as well to Kelvin over here. Okay, so this will make T plus 273 degree minus 20 plus 273 degree, yielding me this expression itself. Okay, 273 will be cut by 273 over here. So now when I will be solving for this T over here in this full expression, because every bit of information is provided me in the question itself, like as the R1 of ferrous is 3.9, R1 of copper is 4.1, alpha of iron is 5, alpha of copper is 4, I'll be getting the value of T. So the value of T for me comes to be 220 degree Celsius. Okay, now moving forward to the next question, the current in the conductor, please read out the next question. The current in the conductor and the potential difference across the ends are measured by the ammeter and voltmeter. The meter draws negligible current. The meter draws negligible current. The ammeter is accurate, but the voltmeter is having a zero error. Now first let me tell you what is a zero error over here. Now if you are given with any dial, so you are given with this dial over here. Now you haven't connected this dial to your circuit yet, and it is still giving you a reading. Now if you have seen in your lab where there are faulty dials, now these dials are having a reading prior to the connection with the circuit itself. Okay, so as in this case you can see my needle, instead of having on 0 because it isn't connected with any circuit over here, is at number 1 itself, Now if I have to calculate the voltage in between point 1 and point 2, what I will do is I will calculate the voltage and subtract 1 and subtract 1 from the answer. Okay, I will subtract 1 from the answer and give this reading to my teacher. Okay, so this is your zero error, because your dial is having an error. It is showing a value prior to the connection of the circuit itself. Now what you are going to do is, you are having this faulty dial and you are measuring two reading over here. One is 1.75 and the current is coming to be 1.75 from the emitter, and voltmeter is giving a 14.4 volt reading, whereas in the second reading you are having emitter giving you a reading of 2.75 and voltmeter giving you a reading of 22.4 volt. Now it is being said in the question itself that the emitter is not faulty but the voltmeter is. Okay, so by the application of Ohm's law, if I have to calculate for the R, we know that V equal to IR, and if I am calculating for the same R will not change for both of the reading. R1 will be equal to R2 will be equal to certain R over here. Now as I know that in both of the reading there is something fishy going over here. Okay, so from both of the reading of the voltmeter I will be subtracting this small v which I called as error, okay, and I1 will or I2 will be same as they are given in the question, because they aren't carrying any kind of error with them. Okay, so if first case resistance is equal to second case resistance, okay, then you can figure out what's the value of this small error v. Okay, so if you are taking reading of the first case, you will be doing is, you will be having the voltage which is 14.41, which is 14.4 in the case it is given, and you will be subtracting that error, okay, as I have told you. And in the second case it is 22.4 and you will be subtracting the error from that case only. Okay, now because you aren't because you haven't given with any kind of resistance with you, just two cases over here, so we can just simply equate both of the cases and find the value of small v or the error v over here. So hopefully you have got the idea what I was talking about until now, and you can figure out by the simple mathematics the value of error over here. So it is 0.4 volt for my case. Okay, now let us move toward 16th question itself, which says that you are given with the following figure. The voltmeter is carrying a very high resistance, ammeter is carrying very low resistance or some resistance. The voltmeter is reading 1.52 when a switch is open. When this switch over here is open, as you can see in the diagram itself, when the switch it is open, then voltmeter is reading 1.52. okay, so what and when this switch is closed, so I've joined this switch over here, when this switch is closed, then your voltmeter is showing a reading of 1.45 and ammeter is showing you a reading of 1 ampere over here. Now you have to find the EMF. Now what you can do over here is, to find the EMF, you have to consider case 1. Where you haven't joined the switch yet, so emitter will not take part in the circuit, so our net circuit will be the upper one circuit over here. Okay, our net circuit will be something like this over here. Now you can say that because voltmeter is carrying a very high resistance, I can pretty much predict that, let us assume that this resistance is infinite, and if this resistance is infinite, the current in this branch will be equal to 0 eventually. Okay, so from this logic I can say that because there is no voltage developed across this small resistance R over here, the voltmeter is measuring all about this EMF only. Okay, logically, so the EMF comes out to be 1.52. Now if we take the second case over here, where this voltmeter was reading 1.45, volt as a whole, and the emitter was reading 1 ampere current when the switch was connected, then I can say that the current which is delivered by this EMF over here is directly going toward the emitter side, because it is having a zero or a very small resistance relative to our voltmeter, which is carrying a very large resistance, let us say infinity. Okay, so instead of going in this branch, my current will try to go from this branch itself. Okay, so what I can do over here is I can simply put the concept of KVL. I can simply put the concept of KVL. Now what you are going to do is you are marking the terminal A over here and B over here. Now you are having a choice while applying KVL, that if I can choose this loop A, B, let us say this is C and D, or I can choose this loop A, B and E, F. So you are left with two choices, that either you can choose the loop A, D, C, B or A, F, E, B. Okay, so for most of the people the case will be that they will be choosing the loop A, B, C, D, because there isn't any voltage drop across the emitter, because it is carrying zero resistance over here. So henceforth they can bypass this DC line over here. But I have to tell you that you should be careful while carrying the KVL itself. If your assumption is damn good, then you can take this. But as I know that the data provided to me is giving me every bit of information about application of the KVL. So instead of taking A, D, C, B, where I am unsure about the resistance of this emitter over here, okay, where I am unsure about the resistance of the emitter over here, and henceforth I will be unsure about the KVL statement over here, I'll be taking the next loop, which is AFEB, because in this loop I don't have to consider about the resistance over here. Okay, everything is given to me, the voltage over here is given to me, and every bit of information basically is given to me. So starting from A itself, I am going from A and returning to A. Okay, so if you have applied KVL, well and good. If you haven't applied KVL, please see the following question over here. Now if you are starting from A and in clockwise direction, so you are going from A to this voltmeter. Now current is going from this side and terminating to this side. Now this voltmeter is nothing but resistance, so I'll be marking a positive sign over here for the entry of the current and the negative sign over here for the termination of the current. So you are going from positive to negative, henceforth you are decreasing, that's why you are having a negative over here. So you are adding VA, but you are subtracting 1.5 from your VA, because you are going from positive to negative terminal. Now you have to come across this small resistance over here, now your current is going in this direction over here, so it is entering, so henceforth I can write it as plus over here and a minus over here. So from plus to minus you are going, so you are decreasing in the number line, so you'll be having a minus over here, and then you will be writing the voltage across this R, which is IR. Then you are going from the negative terminal of the battery to the positive terminal of the battery, and this is nothing but E. Now because you are going from negative to the positive terminal of the battery, you are increasing in the number line, henceforth you are giving a plus over here, and you are returning back to A, so equal to VA. Now you will be getting rid of the VA over here. Now it's a simple calculation to calculate for the R over here, because you are given with I1, which is measured by the emitter itself, which was 1 ampere. So just you have to calculate for the R. For my case it is coming out to be 0.07 ohm. So I have calculated for the EMF, I have calculated for the R here in the case. Now moving fastly toward the next question itself, which says the potential difference between the terminal of the battery is 6 volt. Okay, the internal resistance is 1 ohm. Yeah, there is my internal resistance of the battery, and this potential difference of my battery, which was presumed to be 6 volt, actually it should be 6 volt, is now 5.8 volt, because of this culprit small r, or your internal resistance over here. Now you have to find out the external resistor when you connect to this circuit over here. Okay, so you are connecting a external resistor to this configuration of your battery, and this external resistor, instead of getting 6 volt, is getting 5.8 volt. Now to deal with this question, what I can do over here is, I know that some current is carried out by, is passing through this resistor over here. So to in order to calculate RL, I know that the potential difference across this resistor is nothing but 5.8. So I into R equal to 5.8 by Ohm's law, but I don't know about the I, the value of I. So what I can do is, I can apply the KVL in between these two terminal over here. Okay, so what I have done is, I have started from A, and landed toward B. So this is my final point, this is my initial point over here. So VA, I've started from VA, then I'm going from the positive terminal of the battery to the negative terminal of the battery. So henceforth I can say that I'm going down the number line. So I will be multiplying -1 to my EMF of the battery, which is 6. Then I have multiplied a -1. So VA minus 6. Okay, then my current is coming from this direction to my battery. So there is a positive sign carried by this resistor over here, and a negative sign carried by this resistor over here. As you know, in KVL, the current, if this current is going in this direction, then the gate at which the current is entering will be carrying a positive charge, and the gate at which the current is terminating will be carrying a negative charge. So now you are moving in this direction, so you are going from negative to positive, henceforth you are increasing. So you will be multiplying a +1 with your voltage across this small resistance 1 ohm. Okay, so I have multiplied a +1, and this is your voltage across this 1 ohm resistor. Okay, I into R, and equal to you are finally landing to VB over here. Now you have to just rearrange the following statement as follow. Now you are given with that VA minus VB is nothing but it is 5.8. Okay, actual battery is 5.8, not of 6 volt. Okay, so VA minus VB is 5.8. So 5.8 minus 6 equal to minus of I. So you'll be having I equal to 0.2 ampere. Now just put this I into this box over here to calculate for your RL, which is 29 ohm. Moving fastly toward the next question, question number 18, which says that potential difference between the terminal of a 6 volt battery is 7.2. As in the prior case, because of having an internal resistance, the battery voltage was dropped from 6 to 5.8. But in this, because we are having an external powerhouse, because we are charging this battery, we are having an increment in the overall potential difference of this battery from 6 to now we are getting a 7.2. Now you have to calculate for the internal resistance of the battery. So now it's very much simple over here. So what you can do over here is, just let me switch my pen to orange. Okay, so what you can do over here is, you can form the circuit diagram as follow. It is very much simple. Okay, now charging means you are forcibly giving current to your battery from the opposite terminal. For example, your positive terminal is throwing the current out. Now here it will be receiving the current, so I can say that it will be receiving the current as follow. Now just apply your KVL in between the initial point A and the final point B. So I can write it as VA, then you are going from positive to negative terminal of the battery, henceforth I'm multiplying -1 over here, then I'm writing the EMF of the battery over here. Then you are entering this resistor, the direction of the current is in this direction, so you are entering this resistor. So you can say that this is a positive sign, positive gate, this is a negative gate of my resistor. Henceforth you are seeing over here that you are going from a positive to a negative way down the number line. So you'll be multiplying -1 to your voltage across this resistor, and you'll be equating it to the final voltage over here. Now it is given that VA minus VB, if you rearrange them in the following manner, you will be noting that VA minus VB is nothing but it is 7.2, and your current is given to you as 2 ampere by the powerhouse. Okay, so your current is given to be a 2 ampere, so you can find out pretty much simply the resistance. Okay, now quickly moving toward the next important question, which is the internal resistance of an accumulator battery of EMF 6 volt is 10 ohm. Okay, when it is fully discharged. So this is my discharge case when my battery is carrying an internal resistance of 10 ohm. When I charge it completely, this 10 ohm changes to 1 ohm. Okay, now the key and the total battery is showing so now he is asking you that if you maintain a 9-volt battery across this, means you are charging this whole configuration, if you are charging this whole configuration, then at time t equal to 0, when you switch, when you join the switch of this discharged battery or connected the terminal of this discharged battery to your charging battery over here, to your main battery, okay, to your charger over here, then what will be the case? So at time t equal to 0, when I am charging my battery, it will be carrying a resistance of 10 ohm, it will not carry the resistance of 1 ohm. Why? Because it is at t equal to 0 case. Okay, that battery is discharged at that time, and for the case of discharged, it is given me that the resistance this battery will carry is of 10 ohm. So this will be my circuit diagram, as you can see now. Now I can apply the KVL in between A and B over here. So what I can do over here is VA, then again I'm decreasing over here -6, because I'm going from plus to minus terminal over here. Then because I am forcibly adding my current to this battery over here, my current direction will be something like this. I've shown in your orange. So my current will be going from positive to negative over here, so it is decreasing. Okay, I'm going down the number line, so I am multiplying a -1 to the voltage across this 10 ohm resistor, and finally I am landing back to the VB over here. Okay, so that's how I am having this expression of KVL over here. So by putting all of the values, because VA minus VB is nothing but it is 9, VA minus VB is nothing but it is 9, putting all of the values, I can figure out what I is. In this case it is 0.3. Now in the second question it is asking for the steady state case. What is steady state case? That after a very long time, when your battery is charged, is completely charged, what will be the current? Now if your battery is completely charged, he have given you that your resistance will change from 10 ohm to 1 ohm only. Okay, then you will be living with this circuit diagram. Okay, so your battery, you can see over here in this diagram, is nothing but in parallel to each other. So 9 minus 6. Okay, and V equal to IR, from Ohm's law you can figure out V equal to IR. So you'll be having V as 9 minus 6 into I into R. What is R over here? It is 1 ohm. So you'll be having I to be equal to 3 ampere only. Now quickly moving toward the next question, which is question number 20. You have to find the ratio of I1 I2. You have to find the ratio of I1 I2 in these two circuit over here, Now he is asking you that, or he is telling you that from your answer, in order to get more current from a combination of two batteries, they should be joined in parallel if your external load resistance is very small, and in series when your external load resistance is very less. So what he is saying, that if you want to fetch more current across this load resistance, you have to consider these two cases. When your load resistance is very low, then to fetch more current, you should combine these two batteries which are in series in this case to be in parallel, like as you are seeing in the diagram 32E3 in the second diagram itself. Okay, and if your load resistance is very high, then you should avoid this parallel combination. Instead you should join these two batteries in series itself for fetching maximum current at R. Okay, so now what I am doing over here is, firstly, to confirm this statement, I will be carrying out, or I will be finding out both of the current in both of the circuits. So I have taken the circuit number 1 and I have applied the KVL over here. So starting from A itself, let us say my current is going in this direction. My current is going in this direction. Okay, so this is my direction of current. So first I have to mark the gates of resistance, gates of resistors over here. So my current is entering this resistor over here, so a positive gate given to this resistor over here and a negative gate at the terminal end. Similarly, current is entering positive gate, negative gate, current is entering positive gate and a negative gate. Now just simply apply KVL. So I'm starting from VA, then I'm going anti-clockwise direction. So VA, then I'm going from positive to negative over here, so minus IR. Okay, I'm multiplying a -1 over here because I'm moving down the number line. Then from positive to negative at 1 ohm resistance, okay, again I'm moving down the number line, so I've multiplied a -1 over here, as you can see, and the value of voltage across this 1 ohm resistance. Then I'm moving from the negative terminal to the positive terminal of this 6 volt battery over here. So because I'm going up the number line, I multiplying -1 over here. Okay, similarly in this case also I can write it as follow, and in this case also I can write it as follow, and landing up to VA itself. So VA will be cancelled and I'll be remaining with my I expression over here. Okay, so I find it out I1. In the second case, I can see over here the circuit is something like this. So I can found, or I can form the equivalent circuit of this. These two batteries are in parallel over here, so I made a parallel combined battery over here. These two resistors are parallel over here, I made a combined battery over here. From V equal to IR, I have founded the value of I, which is I2. Okay, which is I2 in this case. Okay, so these are the two formula, you should note down them for the sake of comparison. Now I have to take the value of R. At different value of R, I am finding the value of I1 and I2 to confirm the statement over here. So when my R is very small, I can see over here that in the series combination the current is coming out to be 5.71, and the current in the parallel combination is coming out to be 2 times of current in the series combination. So henceforth I can say that the statement is correct. If you are having a very low load resistance and you want to fetch more current at the load resistance, okay, when you are having a very small load resistance, even if you are having very small load resistance from your internal resistances of the battery, which is in this case is nothing but 1 ohm. Okay, so if you are having very small load resistance then your internal resistance of the battery, then you have to for fetching of the maximum current, you have to connect both of the batteries in parallel combination. Okay, now in the second reading you can see over here, if I'm having a very high resistance then my internal resistance, so my load resistance is very high than my internal resistance of the battery, then I can see over here that my I1 is coming out to be 1 ampere and my I2 is coming out to be 0.57 ampere. Okay, so hence the statement is verified that if you are having very high resistance, then if you are having very high load resistance, then your internal resistance, then you should join your battery in series to fetch more current instead of the parallel combination itself. Okay guys, so that's a very good point over here. Now the takeaways of the following lecture. First takeaway is development of electric field inside your conductor itself. So you can find out the electric field by the following formula. Just replace your V by ED, where D is nothing but it is length of wire, and you can simply put V equal to IR. Okay, your second takeaway from the day is the variation of resistance with temperature. Okay, so you can say that R2 is R1 1 plus alpha delta T. This is your variation of your resistance with your temperature, as we have seen in the copper and copper and iron wire itself. Your third takeaway is the zero error. zero error. So the error you are having in your dial prior to connecting it to a circuit. Okay, so the error, the existing error, or the existing reading in your dial prior you have connected to it to any circuit. Okay, then your fourth takeaway is nothing but your KVL and KCL itself. Okay, KVL and KCL. So as you KVL and KCL, in KVL I have told you the marking of the resistance. Okay, marking of the resistance, that uh, if you are having this resistance over here, the current is entering the resistance, so there will be a positive gate and there will be a negative gate, and from the negative gate your current will be terminating. Okay, and to apply KVL you have to choose only one point and proceed accordingly. So that was your takeaway from the KVL. Okay, just wait for the video. I will be explaining KVL and KCL in that separate video itself. And okay, until then, you can just wait, and you can just subscribe my channel, so notification will be shown to your mobile itself. Okay, by YouTube. The last takeaway was your this statement, that if you are having a load resistance which is very small to your internal resistance, if you are having load resistance very small to your internal resistance, then to fetch maximum current at load resistance you should join these batteries in parallel combination instead of series. And if you are having the opposite case, that R is very greater than your internal resistance, then you should join the batteries in the series case to fetch maximum current at the load resistance. Hopefully you have liked my video, liked my lecture, liked the way I teach you. Okay, so please give it a like and subscribe my channel, and you can talk to me at my personal number, WhatsApp number, about your problems and anything, or your personal sessions if you want. I can give free demo session to you guys, and if you are underprivileged, then I can help you at free of cost. Okay, so please visit my site. Many of the free exams are available there. Okay, freely for you guys only. So we'll meet you in the next lecture. Until then, goodbye guys.